What are some of the big levers you can pull on in the next year to get massive results for your business? I'm not talking about 80-20. I'm talking about something even better, 95-5. This is the Construction Leading Edge podcast from constructionleadingedge.com and buildermastermindgroup.com. My name is Todd DeWalt. It's my job to help you, the construction business owner and leader, eliminate chaos, maximize profits. I heard a story a few years ago. A speaker was talking about how he was having these really serious gastrointestinal problems that had bothered him for years, and it had progressed to the point where he had seen a doctor, and he actually had surgery scheduled to solve this problem. And he had been talking to a lot of people. He knew about it, and he told one of his friends about the surgery he had scheduled, and his friend said, "Oh yeah, I had the same problem." And the guy scheduled for surgery said, "Oh yeah, how did the surgery go?" And he said, "Oh, I didn't have to have surgery." And this intrigued the other guy, who, Chris was his name, and Chris, who was scheduled for surgery, said, "So what did you do if you didn't have surgery? Because my doctor told me the only option was surgery." And Chris's friend said, "Oh, it's simple. I just started drinking carrot juice," which was just ridiculous to Chris, because Chris had been dealing with these problems for years, and it was incredibly painful, and the solution was going to be incredibly painful in the form of surgery. But Chris said, "You know what? I will reluctantly give it a try." So he started drinking carrot juice. And long story short, no surgery was required. Now, Chris, being the skeptic that he was, figured that there was probably no relationship between the carrot juice and his symptoms going away. But he said, just to be safe, he still drinks a glass of carrot juice every day. So here's what I've found after working with construction businesses every day for the last several years, working with businesses all over the US and Canada and even in Australia, that some of the most painful problems you have can be solved with relatively painless solutions. So another way to say that is, just because your symptoms are really painful doesn't mean that the solution has to be painful. You don't have to have surgery. You don't have to burn the whole thing down and start all over. There are some simple adjustments you can make that will make these really painful problems go away. I'm going to talk about that in this episode today. Before I jump into that, here are a few resources to share with you. The owner of an electrical contracting business sent me an email a while back that said, and I quote, "Here's a real-life example of the dangers of sending employees to the supply stores. As you can see, this is not a profit bleed, it's a profit gusher." He has GPS tracking on his trucks, so he ran a report showing how much time his vehicles were spending at the supply store, and he said, quote, "The data was staggering to me." How much time is your team wasting every week driving and shopping? And how much is that costing you? Add up the cost of labor, fuel, maintenance, plus the opportunity cost, which is the revenue that you're missing out on. Well, today I'd like to introduce you to Curri, Curri. Think Uber for last mile delivery of construction supplies. You can use the Curri platform to get matched with drivers who have the vehicle you need to move the materials you need, whether it's a small box, a big box, lumber, pipe, pallets, whatever you need. If this sounds interesting to you, visit constructionleadingedge.com/Curri. That's Curri, and get $40 of free credit when you sign up. Stay out of stores with Curri. That's constructionleadingedge.com/Curri, Curri. As a contractor, you manage a ton of jobs every day, and trying to keep up to speed and ensure work actually gets done takes up way too much time. And that's where Company Cam comes in. Every photo and video your guys take at a job is automatically organized by location and instantly synced from the field to wherever you are. Now, you'll know exactly what's happening across your company, be able to communicate more effectively, and cover your butt from future claims. document your jobs, communicate with your crews, and protect your company. All with CompanyCam, the only app every contractor needs. Get started today at companycam.com/CLE. All right, let's talk about some of those painful problems. See if any of these sound familiar. When it comes to your customers, you get this mom versus dad thing where you have customers who are calling. They keep calling people on your team until they get the answer that they want. And if they don't get the answer they want from your team, they call you. And they want you to solve their problem, even though you have a team. Maybe there's a barrage of communication. Messages, emails, texts, phone calls, drop-in visits coming from all directions, just this barrage of communication. Perhaps there are constant changes on your project from the customers and things that got missed, and maybe at the end of projects, you just can't get away from them. You have these never-ending projects. Closeout is a nightmare. Punch lists are a nightmare. Maybe it's a never-ending nightmare. You just keep doing punch list after punch list after punch list. There are likely profit bleeds that are hammering your bottom line. Profit bleeds like rework and unsolicited charity, schedule overruns, schedule delays, poor productivity, things like that. And then here are some of the more painful issues I've heard as I've worked with construction businesses when it comes to their team. They say things like, every decision and every problem falls in my lap as the owner. My team is stepping all over each other's toes. Or details are slipping through the cracks. Or people are pointing fingers. Oh, I thought you were going to do that. Oh, I thought you. Oh, and you have this starving horse situation. Maybe you've heard me say that the best way to starve a horse is to have two people feed it. And if two people are feeding it, then it probably doesn't get fed. Your customers are walking all over you. You might say things like, I'm wearing too many hats, or I'm wearing all the hats in the business. It's just chaos everywhere. It's not clear who has the ball, who is responsible for this part of the business, this project, this customer, this situation. Maybe it feels like a constant scramble. Maybe you hear yourself say things or think things like, my people just won't take ownership. I can't get my people to take ownership. Or my people won't follow, or they just refuse to follow the process. Well, if any of those sound familiar, in this episode, I'm going to talk about, there's no we, it's just me, I'm going to talk about 5 big levers that you can pull on to change your business in the next year. I'm recording this in late December 2021, so we all like to think about the new year and setting goals for the following year. So if you're listening to this in 2021, then this will work. This will help you identify some of the 5 big levers you can pull. If you're listening to this in the future, quite frankly, it doesn't really matter when you start using them. You could start them in July, whatever. But these are 5 big levers you can pull on to change your business in the next year. I'm a big fan of the 80-20 principle. I talk about it a lot, which says that 20% of your results are going to come from 80% of your results will come from 20% of your inputs. This also works on the flip side. 80% of your problems probably come from 20% of your customers or your people or your inputs. Well, these 5 big levers I'm going to talk about are even better than 80-20. Think 95-5. These are 5% of the activities that will give you 95% of the results. And these are the things that I work with my one-on-one coaching clients on. So I want to share some of these 5 big levers you can pull on to really change your business in the next year. The first big lever is for you to start thinking differently. You have to start thinking differently. You have to get your business out of your head. You have to start thinking, instead of how can I get better at this job, start thinking, how can I work myself out of this job? And here are a few ways you should start thinking. Number 1, as I talk about a lot, start thinking right to left instead of the typical way that most small business owners think, which is left to right, which is we'll just take things one day at a time, take things as they come, and then we'll just do the best we can with what we have, get to the end of the month, end of the quarter, end of the year, look at the results, and say, oh, well, we'll just wait and see how things turn out. That doesn't work. If you take the wait and see approach, you'll probably do a lot of waiting and not a lot of seeing of the results you want. So right to left thinking is, let's go out to the right side of the page and figure out, what do you want? What do you want your lifestyle to look like? What do you want your business to look like? What kind of projects do you want? How much money do you want to make each year? What does your company look like 5 years from now? And then work from right to left. Work backwards. Reverse engineer your company and your business and your lifestyle to get what you want. So right to left thinking. Another way to think differently is to elevate and detach. You want to start thinking, if you really want to change your business, you want to start thinking more like a CEO, or better yet, like an investor in your business. Start thinking of yourself as the person, the designer of this machine that is your business, and stop thinking, how can I become a better cog in the wheel? You don't want to think, how can I become a better estimator, better project manager, better superintendent, better salesperson? Think, how can I find a cog, that cog, to replace myself so that I can detach from the business and elevate and start looking at this machine as a designer instead of being part of the machine. And then you want to get your business out of your head. We'll talk more about what specific part of the business to get out of your head, but so many of you have your business, your process locked away in your head. And that's why your team doesn't follow the process, because they're not a mind reader. And it's your job to get it out of your head into some format that's a little more accessible than being locked away inside your ears. And we'll talk about that some more in one of the other levers. Here's another different way to think about your business. Build your business like you're going to sell it someday. Build your business like you're going to sell it someday. A lot of people at the beginning are super focused on, how am I going to start my own business? How do I get into business? How do I get into business? Very few people are thinking about this question. Here's the question I would challenge you to think about is, how are you going to get out of your business at some point? How are you going to get out of your business at some point? What is your succession plan? What is your exit strategy? And this goes back to right to left thinking. Start with the end in mind and work backwards. Another big way to start thinking differently is delegation. Delegation. Stop thinking, how can I get more work done? Start thinking, how can I leverage the strengths of my team to get more done while doing less? I'm telling you, when you start to tap into the art and the science of delegation, you will be able to get more done while doing less personally. Here's what you need to understand. Trust and autonomy are two of the biggest motivators of humans. Not money, not titles, but trust and autonomy are two of the biggest motivators of humans. Meaning, when you feel trusted, and when you feel autonomous, when you feel like you're in control of your day-to-day or your outcomes, then you are motivated. So your job is to leverage that. Create an environment where your people feel trusted and they feel autonomy, and you will be amazed at what happens. So that's what delegation is all about. Another way to start thinking differently is a concept that I took away from a book called Extreme Ownership. This is by Leif, Babin, and Jocko, Willink. And they talk about the first law of combat in this book. And according to them, these are Navy SEALs who understand combat a lot better than I do. The first law of combat is cover and move. And here's what this means to me. and how it applies to how you need to start thinking differently is the typical first response when you run into a problem is probably, what do I need to do? And you operate as a silo, like this wolf pack of one. But the first law of combat, cover and move, says your first question should be, who can I ask for help? Who can I ask for help? Cover and move. Look for people who can help you. Look for resources. Look for relationships that can help you. So the first law of combat says cover and move is about teamwork. Individuals and teams must mutually support one another, working together in order to accomplish the mission. Again, what that means is when you run into an issue, your first question should be, who can I ask for help? Not, what am I going to do? So this works inside your team, but what I'm really talking about is for you as a business owner, having other people that can support you, other people who understand what you're dealing with. I'm talking about building relationships with people who are dealing with the same challenges as you as a construction business owner, and ideally, they're not your competitors. These are people you can call on and say, hey, I'm really having a tough time with this customer, or I'm really having a tough time with this process or the software or my people. I can't get this person to do the job. I think I'm going to have to fire them, right? Wouldn't it be nice to have somebody who understands exactly what you're going through, that you can call on them and not have to reinvent the wheel? So there's a quote that I actually read from Woodrow Wilson just this morning, who said, I not only use all the brains that I have, but all that I can borrow. I not only use all the brains that I have, but all that I can borrow. So having access, having relationships with other people means having access to their brains, having access. Imagine having access to 5 or 6 people, each of whom have 10 to 20 years of experience and education in the construction business, having free access to their education and their experience and their brains, being able to borrow education and experience. Well, if that's interesting, then one thing you might be interested in is the Builder Mastermind group. You can get all the details on that. And right now, for a very limited time, you can get a 30-day free trial membership in the Builder Mastermind group over at buildermastermindgroup.com. So check that out if you want to build relationships with other people who you can access their education and experience. So big lever number 1, change the way you think. Start to think differently. Big lever number 2 is to design your company for the future. Let's go back to some of those problems about your team. These are very common problems I hear business owners say about their team. Things like, every decision and every problem falls in my lap. My team is stepping all over each other, and details are still slipping through the cracks. Our customers are walking all over us. I'm wearing too many hats. It's chaos everywhere. Who has the ball? Who's responsible for this? Maybe you're saying, my people won't take ownership. My team won't follow the process. Well, these are symptoms of an organizational design problem. And if you want to solve that, here's what you do. You design your company for the future. What you need to do is create your accountability chart for 2 years in the future. An accountability chart is like an organizational chart on steroids. And what you're doing is, well, the example I like to use is 20 years ago in Newport, Kentucky, the general contractor I used to work with, I started my career with, was building this massive development on right on the levee of the Ohio River in Newport, Kentucky. And they started with a parking garage. And this parking garage was built into the levee, the flood wall of the Ohio River. And it was a multi-phase, multi-year project. And they put the foundations in for this parking garage. And eventually they built an aquarium on top of this parking garage. And then movie theaters and stores and restaurants, and there's actually still development going on 20 years later. But when they built the foundations, when they put that parking garage in, the very first phase, they designed the foundations for future growth. Because it's extremely expensive, maybe even impossible, to go back and upsize foundations, especially when you're building into the flood wall of a river. So they didn't know exactly what was going to be on top. They didn't know all of the details, but they had to make some assumptions, and they designed the foundation for 20 years of future growth because they knew it was extremely expensive, maybe even impossible to go back and adjust those foundations later. And it's really the same way with a business. If you want to design your organization for future growth, then you need to build in the foundations. You need to create your accountability chart designed for the future. So many problems come from a couple of things, just a complete lack of organizational design. Nobody knows who's responsible or accountable for what. And the other reason some of these problems happen is because you could just be looking at right now. You could be hiring for right now problems, which are just creating more problems. You're not designing for the future. So here's what you do. Here's how you get started creating your accountability chart to design your organization for the future. First, there are three major functions of every business. The most basic level, there are three major functions. There's sales, operations, and financial. Sales team, somebody is selling work, selling widgets. The operations team is creating the widgets and shipping the widgets. And the financial team is counting. They're sending out invoices for the widgets, counting money, depositing checks for the widgets at the most basic level. If you are a one-person operation, then you're wearing all three hats. But at the most basic level, there are three major functions. But your first task is to figure out what are the major functions of your business 2 years from now. Not today. Think about designing the foundations of your business for 2 years out. What do you want the major functions of your business to be? Could be, for example, sales, pre-construction, operations, financial, and administrative. 5 major functions of a business, but you need to decide what do you want your leadership team to look like 2 years from now. That's really what the major functions are. Who is going to be accountable for what major functions of your business? And then the next step is to clearly define the 5 major roles of each major function. So sales, if you have a major function of sales, what are their 5 major roles? Marketing, lead generation, website, lead qualification, etc. What are the 5 major roles of each major function? And then you want to make sure and map several fuzzy roles that could fall into a couple of different places. For example, marketing could fall into maybe the CEO handles marketing, maybe it falls under sales. Estimating. Does estimating fall under sales or operations? Where does design and selections fall? Who is ultimately going to be accountable for design? Sales or operations, for example, using that example. What about marketing? What about if you have a warehouse or purchasing or procurement person? Are they accountable to the head of finance eventually in 2 years? Or do you want your procurement and purchasing function to be accountable to the operations person? But that's what you want to do, is design your organization for the future. 5 major functions, or what are the major functions? Could be No fewer than 3, probably don't want more than 7. And then what are the 5 major roles of each function? And make sure the important roles in your business get mapped to one place. That way, every major thing that's important in your business, one person is accountable for it. So the rules are design for the future. You can't have 2 names in one box. But you can have the same name in multiple boxes. So if you're early in your early stage business, your name might be in all of the boxes. Maybe your name is in 3 out of the 4 boxes. But the key is single source responsibility, single source accountability. That's what you do. So imagine this, 2 years from now, and maybe it doesn't have to take 2 years, but imagine that everyone on your team knows what they're responsible for. They know what their priorities are, and they have the authority to deal with any problems or issues that pop up in their lane. Everybody knows what their lane is, and they're really dealing with everything that's in their lane. Think about what that would be like. What would that make possible for you? Probably a lot of good things. So that's big lever number 2, is to design your company for the future. Big lever number 3 is to get your business out of your head. Okay, get your business process out of your head. And where I recommend you start is with this exercise I call nailing the handoff. Construction projects are a series of handoffs, sort of like a relay race where one runner is passing the baton on to the next runner. And unfortunately, a lot of the handoffs get botched. The baton gets dropped. They don't even have a baton. They don't know where the baton is. Some people won't let go of the baton. Some people just want to run alongside the next runner, and 2 people running with the baton. So screwed up handoffs cause a lot of the problems on construction projects and are the result of a lot of profit bleeds. So one of the biggest levers, highest leverage activities you can do is to go through this process of nailing the handoff. So first of all, step 1 is start by deciding which of your handoffs is the biggest problem. Think about the handoffs in your projects. In your business, it could be some of the most common problematic handoffs are the handoff from sales to design, from estimating to project management, more generally from the office to the field. But figure out which is the most problematic handoff, and then start thinking about this handoff as a very disciplined, very rigorous process, a lot like closing on a loan. Think about the last time you bought a vehicle or closed on a piece of real estate and there was a loan and a lender involved. There was a list of stipulations that all had to be met. And if there were 27 stipulations for that loan to close and you met 25 of them, you're not going to close on that loan. And that's how we want to think about a handoff. So here's how you can develop a really good handoff process with your team and do it in such a way that the chances of them implementing it go up dramatically. So get your team together after you've decided which handoff is most problematic that you want to focus on. And you can actually maybe ask your team what handoff that you need to focus on. But get the team together, get a stack of Post-it notes and Sharpies, have some wall space or a table available, and ask them what the problems are. What are the problems? What's missing? What do you notice isn't working well in this process? You could ask your field team questions like, what do you find yourself going back, and what information are you consistently going back to look for? What do you have to call the office to find out? What are you constantly going back through the contract to find? What's missing? What would make your job easier? But find out what the problems are, and then ask those questions, and then get consensus from the group in the form of asking something like, do you agree these are problems? And then ask them which one they want to start with. Which is the biggest problem we need to solve first? Get the team to vote on it, and then ask them, don't rush to solutions. This is a little bit of selling. Ask them, what would life be like on the other side of this? Imagine we can solve this handoff problem. What if you didn't have to constantly call the office for this? How would that make your life easier? And what you're doing is future pacing. You're getting them to see what's in it for them to go through this process. There's a little bit of selling involved here. Then, once you've identified the problem you want to start with, ask my favorite question, which is, quote, what would it take to prevent this? And then be quiet. What would it take to prevent this problem? What would it take not to solve it when it comes up or solve it faster? What would it take to prevent it? What can we do upstream to prevent this problem from ever happening? Write that activity on a Post-it note, slap it on the wall, and then keep asking that question. What would it take to solve this? What could we do differently? And get your team to come up with the ideas. Put those sticky notes in order, like sequential order of a process. Once you have attacked all of those problems, ask your team, hey, have we solved this painful problem? Have we solved this painful problem? And then if they're shaking their head, then make sure that you have your sticky notes on the wall or on a table in order, and then convert those, take pictures of it, maybe shoot a video of it so you have everything memorialized, turn it into a document, a text document, could be a Google Doc, a Google Sheet, a spreadsheet, a Word document, and then that's great, but the real key, if you really want that 5% of the activity that's going to give you 95% of the results, is automate that. Take that process, convert it into a schedule template, automate it, create a co-construct schedule template or a builder trend schedule template that will do the remembering for you and send out tasks and reminders. Okay, I don't have time to get into all of those details, but just think about this. What would it be like that the next time it's time to mobilize to a job site or break ground on a project, that your field team has everything they need? That there's not a constant scramble, that they have reviewed the project, that everybody's confident they have everything that they need. What would that be like? Think about all of the problems that might solve for you. Okay, the fourth big lever really is specific to home builders, remodelers, and general contractors doing small to medium-sized commercial projects, okay? This will work for a lot of other trades. You could probably figure out how to do this. This problem probably affects you, but it's guaranteed to work for home builders doing custom homes, residential remodelers, GCs, especially if you're doing like tenant fit-ups, small ground-up construction, design build type work. And the problem that you want to solve for is free estimates. Doing all of this work for nothing in many cases. So here's what I'm going to say. It's time to end the practice of free estimates for a variety of reasons that I've talked about a lot in the past. But what you want to do is to start using the pre-construction services agreement to revolutionize your sales process. It's going to do a lot of things for you. So think about some of the problems that are associated with doing free estimates, okay? Wasted time. Think about the time you're wasting on estimates that don't ever go anywhere. If you're a custom home builder, for example, you might be spending 30 or 40 hours to put together an estimate on a project, and you may not end up having anything to show for it. Same thing for remodeling. So think about all that wasted time, and then what could you do if you could get 30 hours a month back? What would you spend that on? The other way that free estimates cause profit bleeds is the word gaps. Free estimates are filled with gaps. Gaps like unforeseen conditions, unknown scopes of work, stuff hiding behind walls, designs that aren't completed, allowances, contingencies, plug numbers, many of which result in either profit bleeds or difficult conversations that you have with your clients. So think about this. Here's the reality. Your customers don't want an estimate. Like, they're asking for an estimate. Most people would say, hey, can you give me an estimate? Can you give me an estimate? I want an estimate. Come out and give me an estimate. But they don't want an estimate. What they want is they want to know what it's going to cost to build their project. So what the best piece of advice I could tell you, if you fall into this category, would be to start using the pre-construction services agreement to get paid for estimate. If you want to hear more about that, go listen to episode 224. Bobby Williams from Plainfield, Indiana, talked about how he has collected in the first 8 months of 2021, collected $40,000 or $50,000 in pre-construction fees. I interviewed a guy named Travis Gardner a long time ago who collected $10,000 in pre-construction fees in the first month doing this. You can also listen to episode 226 with John Voitas, who describes this. He told me in one of our coaching calls, he said, Todd, I hear you talking about getting paid for estimates, so that's great. But the check we collect isn't really the biggest benefit for us. And in that episode, 226, John talks about the benefit that's even bigger than getting paid. So what's in it for you that's even greater in value than getting paid to actually use the pre-construction services agreement. So check out episode 224, 226. And if you're interested in ending the practice of free estimates, go to buildermasterclass.com/script to watch a video and learn 3 questions you can ask on your next appointment to get paid for that estimate. 3 simple questions you can ask so they'll see what's in it for them. So go to buildermasterclass.com/script and sign up, and I'll send you that video where you'll get 3 questions you can ask on your next appointment to get paid for that estimate. So that's lever number 4. So far we've talked about 4 big levers. Number 1, think differently. Number 2, design your company for the future. Number 3, get your business out of your head and start by nailing the handoff. Number 4 is end the practice of free estimates and start using the pre-construction services agreement. And the 5th one is maybe one of the more powerful levers you can use to your advantage. In August of 2020, I decided I needed to get in better shape. I had probably put on some COVID pounds, sitting around binge watching Tiger King and other such things during COVID. And so I contacted the owner of my local gym, and Justin printed out a food plan for me. He told me some workouts, gave me some workouts to use, gave me information. And he said it was personal training. And then he said, tell me when you come to work out. And I did. And I was thinking, all right, I'm going to get this individual attention. But it turns out that his idea of personal training was a little different. So what he really did was provided information. And I did that for the most part for several months. And frankly, just didn't see a lot of results. Didn't lose weight. Actually, probably gained some weight. And in May of 2021, I decided I have to do something different. I realized if I want to get different results, if I want to get stronger, if I want to eliminate back pain, if I want to lose some weight, then if I want different results, I have to do something different. Like I'd been following this plan that wasn't working for 9 months, and it just doesn't work. So I decided I needed more than information, and I needed to take things up a notch. So I hired a personal trainer, and he gave me a little bit more information, gave me some, maybe a little too much information at times, but he gave me some tools, taught me how to track my food, told me my calorie count, my macros that I needed to hit. But the big thing that he provided for me that gave me results was accountability. I had to post progress photos. I had to track my food. I had to track my workouts, how many reps I did, how much weight I did on each rep, because I knew Matt was watching. Matt was sending me messages. Hey, how's it going? Hey, good job on this workout. Hey, it looks like you haven't tracked your food this week. What's going on? So I knew Matt was watching. And that's what I paid Matt for, was accountability. And speaking of paying, I had paid a pretty significant amount of money. And what I found is, for me, when I pay attention. I had some skin in the game. And the free personal training I tried with Justin, I had no skin in the game, right? So I had accountability. And long story short, I ended up losing. I've lost about 20 pounds of fat probably in the last 6 months. Gotten stronger. My back feels better than it has in years. And it wasn't about information. I knew what to do. I knew. It wasn't a lack of information. The big deal was the accountability. So one of the big levers that you can pull for next year for your business to achieve what you want to achieve next year is to build in layers of accountability. So one of the keys to success when it comes to achieving your goals is not just to try to do it on yourself and just muscle through, but to build in layers of accountability. And think about this. The strongest accountability is from somebody else. When you feel accountable to someone else, right? If you make a promise to yourself, it's pretty easy to break that. You can rationalize and justify not doing something that you've just told yourself about. But if you tell somebody else you're going to do something, you're probably much more likely to follow through. And then if you tell a group of people you're going to do something and then have to give them an update on progress, how much more likely are you going to be to follow through? I read this recently, that accountability is like an insurance policy. And that's what you need for long-term success. And the more layers of accountability you have, the more insurance you have that your final outcome is going to be success. And there is undeniable evidence that tells us that adding accountability to your goal setting is really the key to increasing the chances of your success. A group called the American Society of Training and Development, their acronym is ASTD, a little bit of an unfortunate acronym. But anyway, they came out with some interesting statistics in a recent study. They had a group of people that set goals and then tried different methods, and then they tracked the results. 65% of the participants completed a goal if they asked someone to hold them accountable to their goals and then committed to accomplishing their project with this accountability partner. So 65% of the people completed a goal if they had an accountability partner and committed to that. That's pretty good, 65%. I think the average success rate for New Year's resolutions is about 8%. 8% of people keep their resolutions, but that jumps up to 65% if you have an accountability partner. Then it gets interesting. 95% of people successfully met their goals when they asked someone to hold them accountable, and then they attended a specific appointment with their accountability partner to discuss their progress and success. This is what happened with me and Justin. I knew Justin was watching. I knew I had calls with Justin. And that's why so many successful behavior change problems or goal setting, no, not problems, but that's why so many behavior change programs that are successful include accountability. I read this from a CrossFit athlete. Quote, accountability is perhaps the most powerful tool readily available at any CrossFit box. Since you're firmly embedded in a supportive community of like-minded lifters, you have this unwritten obligation to show up and get after it. Personal trainers like Justin, when you're working with somebody like them, you're much less likely to skip your workouts. Once you've committed to someone, you're more obligated to show up. If you don't, you'll have to answer to your trainer. You'll have to answer to Justin, or actually Matt. Matt was the trainer that provided the accountability for me. Group fitness, group weight loss challenges, group running challenges provide this positive peer pressure to encourage you to complete your workouts, run the 5K, stick to your food plan, and avoid the temptation to slack off. So here's the question. What if there was a way that you could build in layers of accountability to help you actually achieve your goals for your business? What would that do for you? What if you had this insurance policy that would dramatically increase the chances of success for achieving your goals for your business next year? Well, I had a live meetup in November in Sarasota, and the feedback was tremendous, but one of the questions that came out of it was, all right, what's next? We had all these great ideas. The people who came said, all right, that was great. We had all these great ideas, these action items, these execution plans. But you know what would be great is if there was some accountability so that we had to come back to this group and say, this is what we said we were going to do, and this is what we did. So I went to work on that, and I created the Move the Needle 90-Day Accountability Challenge. This is a massive accountability challenge designed to help you set goals and then create these layers of accountability so you'll actually succeed. Here's how it works. Step number 1, you make the commitment that in the first 90 days of 2022, you're going to commit time and energy and money and resources to work on your business. Basically making a decision, things are going to change, and you're going to make a commitment, okay? You want to work on your business instead of being stuck in it. You want to be a business owner instead of feeling like you're owning a job. That's step number 1, is decide things are going to change. Step number 2 is you make the commitment to join the Move the Needle 90-Day Accountability Challenge. And when you do this, you'll commit to being part of a group of no more than 20 builders, remodelers, and general contractors who have made the same commitment as you. They want the focus and accountability that a group challenge offers and are committing to attend a live meetup at the end of the event. I'll get to that in a minute. Step number 3, in early January, you'll commit to 3 to 5 specific, measurable, hairy, audacious goals that will move the needle for your business. These should be goals that are going to have a dramatic impact, a profound effect on your business, your customers, and yourself. And these are the goals that you want to be held accountable for. Step number 4 is January, February, and early March, there will be accountability checks to provide the focus, provide the accountability, that positive peer pressure you need to maintain momentum. You're going to meet with a small group of other people in the challenge and say, these are my goals. This is what I'm doing. You're going to ask other people, how are you tracking on this? This is going to get you close to that 95% chance of achieving your goals because you're doing it with a group. And then the culmination of this event, where the real accountability comes in, is step 5. You'll attend the live meetup that's in Florida in late March, where you're going to share your goals in person and share your results and your learnings with other members going through the Move the Needle challenge. And you'll also be able to hear everyone else in the challenge, what their goals were, what they learned, and then be able to network with these folks, build relationships with them. This is a massive accountability challenge. So you'll commit, but you're going to do this. You don't have to know your goals yet in order to commit. We'll get to that. You commit, then I'll help you set your goals, and then you'll be on this, like pushing a boulder off a mountain. It'll build momentum. You'll have the accountability to fight procrastination, and avoidance and shiny object syndrome, because you know you're going to stand up in front of people in March and say, here's what I did, right? Massive accountability. So that is the Move the Needle Challenge. And you can get all of those details over at buildermastermindgroup.com/move. So check that out. The Move the Needle 90-day accountability challenge for builders, remodelers, and general contractors. buildermastermindgroup.com/move. And registration closes December 23rd. Registration closes December 23rd. So if you're interested and you know you need to make changes, go commit. Lock that in. So the other things that I talked about, other action items, if you want to take action, you can get your free 30-day trial membership in the Builder Mastermind group and all of the bonuses that I've stacked it up for you to make it an absolute no-brainer. Go to buildermastermindgroup.com. This free trial membership goes away. Enrollment closes on December 17th. There are groups for custom home builders, remodelers, general contractors, and there's even a special group for startups. So if you are somewhere in year 0 or year 1 of your construction business, I have a group or multiple groups that you can join to be joined with other people in the same place as you. So go grab your free 30-day trial membership if there are trial memberships still available, because there's only a limited number available, over at buildermastermindgroup.com. And if you want my help designing your company for the future or systematizing your business, getting your processes out of your head, and have really intense one-on-one accountability to get where you want to be, then you can schedule a free strategy call with me at constructionleadingedge.com. Go to constructionleadingedge.com, click the button that says schedule a strategy call with Todd. As always, I appreciate the ratings and the reviews. Thank you so much for doing that. If you could take a moment and leave a rating or a review. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to this podcast on whatever podcast player you're listening, or on YouTube, and let me know what I can do to help you. My name is Todd DeWalt from constructionleadingedge.com and buildermastermindgroup.com. I'll see you next time. Don't forget to visit constructionleadingedge.com/Curry. That's CURRI to request a 15-minute demo, or just sign up directly for a free $40 credit on your Curry account. Stay out of stores. Start using Curry for construction material delivery today. That's constructionleadingedge.com/CURRI. Remember, with Company Cam, there's no more second guessing about what's getting done or pestering your crews to send you pictures. Every photo and video your guys take at a job is automatically organized by location and instantly synced from the field to wherever you are. Now you'll know exactly what's happening across your company. Get started today at companycam.com/CLE.